Hello and welcome to this third episode of PoliChat. I'm Sam Kim, and today I'll be doing a collab with Riley James of The Riley James Show.
Today we're doing a video on the state of Columbus Day as well as some other weekly news. I released my own video on this subject last Tuesday. Click the card disappearing now to check that out.
Now on to our main story for today, the proposed changing of Columbus Day. For nearly a century, we Americans have been celebrating the landing of Christopher Columbus in the Americas every second Monday in October. However, modern-day liberals and activists have been pushing back against the holiday in line with rising politically correct culture. So should we change this holiday to calm modern sensitivity, or should we let it stay as a lasting mark of pioneering American spirit? And I feel that this scene from The Sopranos really captures the three main points of this argument that we want to cover today.
That is just one person's opinion, Anthony.
Well, football again? He's not gonna get hurt. He's a tough kid.
Oh, Jesus.
We're having a discussion about Christopher Columbus.
They would make fine servants. With 50 men, we could subjugate them
Subjugate.
and make them do whatever we want. That doesn't sound like a slave trader to you?
George Washington had slaves, the father of our country.
Well, what's your point?
His history teacher, Mr. Cushman, is teaching your son that if Columbus was alive today, he would go on trial for crimes against humanity like Milosevic in, Europe.
Your teacher said that.
It's not just my teacher, it's the truth. It's in my history book.
So you finally read a book and it's bullshit.
Tony,
Look, you had to walk in Columbus's shoes to see what he went through. People thought the world was flat, for crying out loud. Then he lands on an island with a bunch of naked savages on it. I mean, that took a lot of guts. You remember when we went to Florida, the heat, and those bugs?
Well, like it took guts to murder people and put them in chains.
he was a victim of his time.
Who cares? It's what he did.
He discovered America is what he did. He was a brave Italian explorer. And in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to point out Columbus didn't show the world that the world wasn't flat. People knew that. He just showed that the Americas existed, and he showed it to a wider European audience. So what do you think about this issue, Riley?
That's man. I think that personally we should sort of eradicate the current state of Columbus Day. I think it's sort of a silly holiday considering we're commemorating a man whose main objective was, I guess his main objective was sort of economic, so it's not too bad. But when you come into what he actually ended up doing, what he did was not only expose America to Europe, unlike the Vikings really didn't expose America to Europe, although they were the first Europeans there. He really sort of opened it up for complete decimation in regards to the native population. Washington and Thomas Jefferson, who owned slaves and had sort of these crimes against humanity, they also took actions which were counterintuitive to those crimes. They established a new American republic, which would eventually move on to free those slaves, to give them voting rights, and give them equal economic opportunities, sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. So today we don't have that fully fixed out, but I'd say in the future we will fix it out one day.
So,
But right now, Columbus, just when he arrived, that was the cause of their woe. George Washington owning a slave, he wasn't the spearheader of the slave trade. So he wasn't the sort of person who brought upon slavery. He was just a contributing factor. Meanwhile, Columbus, his main contributing action is also the action that contributed to their woes.
So, I kind of agree with you, in a sense. I don't believe, personally blaming Christopher Columbus for every bad thing he's done is necessarily the right way to approach it.
Really with him.
But, looking at a greater context, maybe, looking at, what did his discovery eventually lead to? His long-term legacy really decimated the indigenous people's population. But at the same time, putting Indigenous Peoples Day, on such an arbitrary Western date as Columbus Day, maybe, a better way would be to look at like Mesoamerican, like Eastern Woodland Indian culture, like look at all these Indian cultures and say what is like a day that they all celebrate and declare that Indigenous Peoples Day would be
Yeah,
much more politically sensitive,
it would
and like
definitely be.
or creating like Italian American Day as
Yeah, that would
is
be a better idea than keeping the Columbus Day. It bears the name of a man who is sort of riddled with ideals that we definitely do not share
yeah.
to this day. The only
Okay.
thing that we have in common with him is sort of a pioneering spirit, and even so, it was really just sort of a greedy spirit.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so in other news, we're talking about the Dove commercial. Dove released this commercial, which a lot of people, even like at school, like even like a lot of people said like Dove should apologize in a much better fashion. Like it can't let this go on. This is racist. So I just wanted to play like the supposed clip that is supposed to be racist, just to give our audience like full context.
Yeah, so right there is the main argument. And then here it goes on to the rest of the ad, which sort of reveals Dove's intention. But Dove's insinuation can be seen by that first initial shirt pulling off, where there's the black model who takes off her shirt to reveal a white model underneath. And given the context that they're Dove, a soap company, it sort of makes the insinuation that when you use Dove, you go from this dirty black woman to this clean, pure white woman, which is a
Yeah.
extremely racist statement to be made, even if it's just in an insinuation.
Unintentional.
It's very unintentional.
And this was actually supposed to be like an ad promoting like racial diversity,
Yeah.
like in the TV
But
ads,
that's
like
also an
you
insinuation that they make by, because they don't explicitly, because no one explicitly goes out. We
like
need
no
racial
one
diversity.
intends, like even with like these companies, like you see like a lot of them trying to be politically correct, but they fail in the process because like
Yeah.
it's so difficult, like to like I mean, it isn't difficult to like foolproof something like this. I mean, you can just simply reverse the order, but like
Yeah, no, it's definitely not easy to it's definitely not easy to foolproof something, but it is easy to make it so that the simplest insinuations are not sort of visible. See, I'm not a far leftist. I'm more left centrist. So the fact that I was able to point it out like right away when I first saw that is sort of a bad name for Dove. They definitely should pull the ad first. Did they do that yet? I think they
I'm
did,
not
right?
sure. Like
Definitely, yeah.
I just like received like word of this, like
Yes.
2 days ago, and it like, but like honestly, like I think like this ad, it is like insensitive. Like they should have like pulled it off. Maybe like some suggestions for Dove and other companies in the future. Like maybe have like a special like focus group that is made up of like people with differing political like viewpoints, and then
Yes,
just have
definitely.
them look at like these commercials so that you avoid like PR mistakes, because a lot of like these PR fiascos, besides United Airlines, which is the exception to everything
Yeah.
nowadays, like a lot of them have been caused by like some sort of political issue. So
Yeah,
maybe like
and as much as we complain about this ad, it's not going to change the state of Dove,
yeah,
because people are still going to buy Dove. People don't really go out and say, "Oh, I'm going to go out and buy the most PC soap
like
out there." They're going to see which one's on sale.
yeah,
But definitely for the state of racism in America, Dove should definitely acknowledge the fact that this ad was racially insensitive,
yeah.
and they should pull the ad. They shouldn't fire the guy who made it.
Because
That's
like
extremely harsh.
it's either
It
an
could be
honest mistake or it's like um like there are many factors. So I mean like this isn't like this is like I'd say like an example of like something being like kind of taken out of context in a sense.
Yeah, it's not too hard to sort of take it
Yeah.
out of context. Like it's not terribly removed. There's things that have
But
been way
like
worse removed.
if you had like 1 minute to look at like their original ad campaign, but if you dug a little deeper, but it's like it's not too removed, but
Yeah, that's like I guess the best sort of analogy, almost like La La Land, where they have the sort of white hero archetype, but they would be like, well, we do have black actors in our film. It's still a little bit on the racially insensitive
but I
side.
mean,
If you add just because you add diversity to something doesn't mean that it's politically correct.
but
But
like
yeah, definitely they're not going to lose anything from it.
I
So
mean,
the
like,
only people who have
literally,
sense
like
of
this
losing-
morning I was using Dove soap. But then again, I
thanks for
had
that.
no idea. Like, my parents had no idea about, like, this controversy. So, like, we just went to the store and got, like, Dove soap because it's what we use, like, all the time.
Thank you.
But, I mean, not, like, an advertisement for Dove or, like, any endorsement from Dove, but Dove, if you're watching this, we don't like your ad, but if you can sponsor us, that'll be great. But
That's funny. I
anyway.
would say, yeah, definitely Dove is not going to suffer many consequences. The only people that have to suffer consequences is the American people, that they think that this sort of, more so American corporate in general, that they think that they can get away with these things. You really can't get away with being racially insensitive. Keep it, if you're going to be any sort of less than full PC, which I think people really should be a little bit less, you should keep things in moderation. Definitely don't go this way, because this way is not quite moderate. It is on the racially insensitive side. It's not really hard to see where people can come up with this insinuation. It doesn't take more than 3 steps. It's literally just black woman to white woman. We're
white
Dove.
woman,
We go
and
dirty
then
to
Dove.
clean.
Anyway.
So it's a basic analogy. It's easy to just, it's so easy to insinuate this. Dove's not going to lose money off of this. They only have sort of ways to lose in the future.
Yeah.
And they lose their PR. They lose sort of even their just sense about them. I feel like this doesn't need
But you wonder, like,
sort of,
you wonder, like, whether or not Dove, like, Trump, like, he did all these, like, he did far worse things.
Oh, definitely.
But yet, like, if you look at the charts, like, because of the controversy, he made lots of, like, money, and he got a lot more ad time, like airtime, because of it. Like, I don't think that's Dove's intention, but, like, I don't know. Like, we don't know, like, the full effects. So, anyway, so that concludes this episode of PoliChat. Please like this video and subscribe for more content.
And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, The American Conversation. I'll be creating a new channel for The Riley James Show, so don't forget to subscribe to that as well.
And that's it for today. This is Sam Kim and Riley James signing out. Until next week or next time, continue the conversation.